Hello and welcome, guys, to week 27 of SATAL. This week we pit Lock on Greece against 104th in a really a must-win for 104th. Lock on Greece, unfortunately, is out of contention, not able to bring it back into the top 4 to get into the end of the year tournament, but you know, they've got guts and glory on the line, so big things. I expect big things out of both teams. Unfortunately, I didn't know about this until a couple days ago when Panther came on to tell me, but Lock on Greece has some participation issues because evidently there's a big holiday going on in Greece. So they are down to 4 pilots. They're still gonna tough it out. 104th is going with a 6 ship, but we'll have to see how this plays out. The weather today is going to be foggy, so that could play a role in what's going on. But Joel, what do you think?
Well, part of me tends to think that the fog could play a factor, you know, depending on the elevation here. If Lock on Greece can keep things low in the terrain, then yes, that fog could very well play a big factor into maybe them balancing things out and dropping 2 fighters early and making this a 4-on-4 and, and leveling things out for themselves.
All right, well, let's jump in, see if the teams are ready to rock. You guys don't need to see that stuff. Looks like both teams are ready to go, so this week we're just jumping right into it. Sure, let's get this ready to rock, and off we go. So fights on, go, go, go. So this is week 27. Unfortunately, Lock on Greece is going to be a little bit of a disadvantage here going into this, but we'll have to see how this all toughs out. Like you said, we were talking about fog beforehand. It could be an equalizer here, depending on how both teams deal with the low cloud cover. We're down in Anapa versus Sochi, so the mountains, depending on where the fight breaks out, are a factor. Just watching both these teams take off.
Interesting mix of aircraft today, mostly F-15s and J-11s, it looks like.
Well, 104th is predominantly a 15 squadron. I would assume they're going to move to F-14 and F-18 once they those come out. But Stooge has a tendency to take the Russian planes. Stooge, as many of you know, is one of the best gunfighters in DCS. He gravitates towards the flankers.
Interesting.
He's always done that. Maybe it gives him some type of advantage in close, or maybe that's just what he's always flown. I don't know him personally, so I don't have the answer there, but we'll have to see if it gives him any type of advantage.
Well, I always enjoy the gunfight, so hopefully we can get ourselves one of those today. That would certainly be nice. I
would hope. We haven't had one in a while. Last week we didn't really have any close merges like we had the week before. Last week between the In-Sky and 104th, it was more of a long distance engagements. We had a couple medium range engagements, but most of them were long distance. So maybe this week, given the fog, we can have some close in battles. Will get into the within visual range and we can get some merges.
It looks like, for obvious reasons, I think Lock On is going to be going with a Type 4 ship, and it looks like we have a decent separation on 104th with, I believe, their usual pattern of 3 2 flights with about 5-mile separation.
Well, and Lock on Greece actually looks to be able to have gotten a 5th pilot. So we're not...
Oh, wow.
They're not at quite a big a disadvantage as I thought they were. So hopefully they can battle this one out and make it a good fight. Props to them for coming in and knowing they were going to be a man down and still opting to take off. That takes
left your channel.
Some balls to do.
Absolutely. No, this is going to be interesting too, especially with the late addition of a 5th fighter. This is certainly going to make things a little bit more even in the match, that's for sure. I still think the name of the game for Lock On is to stay inland, use the terrain, use the weather to their advantage, try to draw some of these 104th guys into some situations they don't want to be in. You know, last week we saw that you know, textbook example of a BVR engagement in a lot of ways. I think you could say just based upon the way I think InSky went about approaching that, you know, I think we're going to see something a little different this week, which should be interesting.
Well, I think last year we saw we're textbook in the way that it was a very defensive engagement. InSky, and we talked to, I think it was 1821 after the match, they took a very defensive stance going into that matchup, and I think it paid off for them. The patience that they brought in was... RVE, I don't think, knew what to do with it. And when you can provide that discipline and outweight the other team, and you then, once you've played that waiting game, if you still have more fuel and you still have more weapons, you can really take it to the other team. And I think that's what we saw last week. And I'm really curious to see what we see this week. Typically, in my experience, I've seen 104th be very aggressive. Lock on Greece, I'm not entirely sure what they're going to do. We're going to have to see how they play this out because they only have 5 pilots. I would assume they're going to take a more defensive stance and wait for 104th to make a mistake, but we'll have to see. I anticipate this being a very defensive matchup from the Lock on Greece side, and I think 104th, my estimation, is going to be that they are going to be hugely aggressive. So we see 104th ingressing, and this is all my calls this week are going to be in metric. So they're at 10,000, currently ingressing over Mach 1. You can see them marking, so that's around 35,000 feet. So they're plenty high. Where do we have Lock on Greece currently? They are at 8,000. Are they marking yet? No. Go ahead there, Joel.
I would say they look like they're splitting up into a 3-ship and a 2-ship with minimal separation between the two groups. I don't know if that's going to change as they get closer here, but it seems like they're starting to form up as it looks like the 104th separation is growing even larger. I think the aggressive stance on the 104th part is the smart play, just considering the man advantage and just positions in the standings. You know, you got to think that has a little bit to do with it here, the mental game of it, coming out, being aggressive, being the better team in the match, and or at least the better team in the standings. I think that may have a little bit to do with it.
It could, but this is a must-win for 104th. If they don't win here, they're in dire straits going into the end of the year tournament that starts early October. So the end of the year tournament, for those that don't know, only the top 4 teams advance. It's based on your win percentage. Then we go to kill death ratio. Then we go to I think it's, I don't remember what the last tiebreaker is.
Well, it's 104th right now, 6 points with the 2 teams above them, the Art of War and Chinese Festival, coming in with 9 points. So yes, indeed, today is a very big match for 104th, trying to move up in that seeding game and trying to get themselves in the best position before the playoffs start. So big game for them today. Sure.
So closure distance is now down to 77 kilometers. Both teams are decently high. Lock on Greece, they're not quite as high. They're still at 7,000. And 104th is still at about 10,000. So 104th has a significant altitude advantage. Are they going to be able to capitalize on that? What is it? Around 15,000 feet of altitude separation between Lock on Greece and 104th. If they play it right, that's a pretty significant energy advantage going into this fight. But the question is, are they going to play it correctly?
Yes, indeed, that is a very good question. And it looks like they are now maneuvering off, flanking to 036 from their current header, for their previous heading.
Yeah, they've turned as a group away from the AO. Wonder if they're trying to drag away from feet wet, trying to cause confusion in the 104th ranks. This is something that we haven't seen yet. Steve099 says hello to both of us. Well, hello.
Steve.
And to catch up real quick, we had a couple follows. I'm going to assume that's how you say your name. And Kevy K1, thanks for the follows, guys. Good morning to everyone. Nobody's missed any action. Lock on Greece, if you're just joining, is flying with only 5 pilots. And they're playing hugely defensive right now. They're now cold away from the AO. And I don't think this is necessarily a bad play. I think they're trying to instill confusion in the ranks of 104th going into this. What?
Now they seem to be cold. How far are they from the bubble?
They've got a little bit of room to play with. I think the bubble.
Room to play with there?
They've got probably 30 kilometers.
Okay.
I don't know why they're just going cold at this point.
Once again, I think this right here could be a deciding factor in the first round. This seems like a high risk, high reward play here. Whether or not this is going to work out for them or not is the question. But I think this right here could be a deciding factor.
It might be. I would have liked to see them, instead of just heading northwest or completely cold back towards Anapa, to maybe take an offset and head northeast, where you're forcing 104th to make a decision. But it looks like they're recommitting. That is a really close. So we can see Lock on Greece is now recommitting here. But what? I'm still trying to figure out what exactly they were trying to do. Maybe it was just a maneuver to try and build separation between the 3-ship and the 2-ship?
It looks like that's took the words out of my mouth there. It seems because the 2-ship held a whole lot longer before making that come around turn back hot, and it from where we're sitting, it looks like the only reason you do that is to just create a little more separation there. Although now the Fleet 3 are circling back.
Maybe they're just in some sort of grinder going in here. So it looks like they've set up some sort of racetrack with their 5-ship, playing very defensive.
Now the back 2 are turning in to join in front of the back 3.
I think what they may be trying to do is just get 104th to commit in some fashion. And if they can cause confusion, which is what it seems like is going on, they may be able to isolate 1 or 2 ships coming off of the 104th line. But my worry here now is that they're getting really close to the edge of the bubble. And I don't know exactly where the edge of that bubble is, but they are getting close to it. So at least that's my assumption. I think it's somewhere in here, and we're going to get a warning, or they should, I don't know that we will, that they're close to the bubble, or close to leaving the bubble. And I just hope that that's not how they
hopefully they heed that warning. Indeed.
Well, now they're saying they don't have an AWACS picture, which they should. I can see it. But see, this is exactly... So what we talked about earlier is exactly what happened. So now there's separation between Fallen and Stooge and Mustang and Riptide. And depending on how aggressive Fallen and Stooge are in this particular situation, this could play out to Lock on Grease's favor. If Fallen and Stooge are aggressive here and don't turn cold into the support of Mustang and Riptide, this will be exactly what Lock on Grease want. They want to isolate elements from 104th and capitalize on the numeric advantage in those particular engagements instead of trying to take the fight of 5v6 overall. And that's what it looks like is shaking out, though Fallen and Stooge are now turning cold.
Well, yeah, it certainly seems like that was what Lock On wanted, and they got those 2 to kind of come sniff things out. And as they started to figure, as it looked like Lock On turned hot, I think they figured out what was going on, and now they've sent 2 back up to cover their egress. But this could get interesting here because it looks like Lock On is committing all 5 pilots here into the action, or
but I don't,
is that lead flight turn?
Well, now that lead flights looks like he's starting to turn around or taking an offset here. How is this? And no missiles have been fired yet, folks. I don't think we've been inside of 20 kilometers yet. They're slowly inching closer, but now Lock on Greece, they're all together. They're all on top of one another, which when you're at a numerical disadvantage, I think is, this is my opinion, I think it's smart. You don't want to be too separated because then you can be you can be preyed on. But 104th on the flip side of this is playing very defensive. They're not overcommitting into this. Just single 2 ships going in by themselves. I think both teams are just waiting for the other team to make a mistake. So maybe we're going to see a similar matchup to what we did last week, where both teams are just trying to run the other ones out of fuel.
That's a very, very good estimate of what's going on here. I think just based upon what we're seeing out of Lock On, I think they're trying to do some different things just based upon that man down advantage. And here we go now. It looks like they're sending 2 into the fray here with 3 back to cover. And 104th Spade.
This is seems like he's keep that commitment going there, Scooby and Saf. That would have been perfect.
They had the advantage.
Well, that's if Spade would have continued in hot. I don't know if he would have, because Spade, right after I said that, turned cold. But we have Fallen and Stooge now over here on the western side towards Feet Wet. Now look to be pressing in on the western flank of the Lock on Greece side. And now there's an isolated 2 ship of Scooby and Saf versus Fallen and Stooge. So are we going to see a 2v2 here develop outside of Glenzik? Here comes the first missile. It's from Stooge on Panther. Is Panther going to know this is coming? Turn off the webcams here. He's defensive now. Got to dump those flares. But that missile is going to be completely out of energy by the time it gets there. But Fallen now is committing in hard and staying hot while Stooge has turned cold.
Scooby making a move on him.
But is that...
And
I think
Fallen
thought better and is now turned cold, which I think, again, is the smart decision. Stooge puts out another ET. He sees Scooby here. Does Scooby know that that's coming? He puts what I assume is an ET. It came off his inside rail. I think he knows you better flare there, Scooby. Or is that missile going to be out of energy by the time it reaches him? I think it might. By the time he turned cold, where's that missile? Indeed, it is. So both Scooby and Stooge exchanging ETs and then immediately turning cold. So those missiles fired from a decent distance. I think they were fired from over 20 kilometers. And by that point, if the bandit turns cold, it's a non-factor. The missile's going to be completely out of energy.
It looks like Lock On now moving back to regroup and attack again. They got a decent bit of separation between the one lone fighter. Is it Griff? Tass?
Scooby recommitting here by himself against an onslaught coming from 104th. 104th is recommitting or committed in with a 5 ship of Riptide, Mustang, Spade, Stooge, and Blaze, and Fallen bringing up the rear. And Scooby going Rambo here, saying, Leroy Jenkins, I'm going in by myself, and is head on with a 5 ship. So Spade launching a 120B. Let's watch this from Scooby's point of view going in here. He's now decided to go defensive. Does he have enough time? He does. So he puts an ET out there. I think that was on Spade. Spade dropped some flares. We all know that if you even think about dropping flares against an ET, that ET's like, I don't know what to do. There's some flares over there. I'm going to go fly over there. And then he goes and tries to take down the flares. So Scooby, I thought he was going to commit in there Rambo style, saying Leroy, and run in there, but he thought better and turned cold. I think that was when he got the pit bull warning from the 120, but he decided better. So ET, lots of ETs being launched here early. This one's on Stooge. Does he see it? He doesn't yet. He's still in gate. But I think he's decided I'm far enough away. I don't need to drop flares. I can just turn cold and run that ET out of energy. 120B coming from, who was that? From Officer. Who's that on? I think that's on Fallen. And that, I think, is a dead missile as well. And 120B coming from either Mustang or Riptide. That 120B may be trouble for Officer. He's kind of taking a lackadaisical turn here. And that 120B has plenty of energy by the time it gets to him. And either Stooge or Riptide says, see you later. And that's our first casualty of the matchup.
A lot of ordnance got exchanged there, folks. That was quite a few missiles out.
And somebody, I think that was Saf, fired that 77. And guys, that 77 is fired from a long distance, is a non-factor when you fire from that far. So both teams playing very defensive, but I think Lock on Grease just got a little lackadaisical there with that defensive maneuver. And it was just, that was it. That was all she wrote. So yeah, Officer just defended a little too nonchalantly and paid for it. 120B coming off a spade. Marine there takes a much more aggressive defensive turn there when he gets the pitbull warning from the 120B. And that 120B, as long as you're aggressive when it's fired from that distance, is going to be completely out of energy by the time it reaches you. We can see that it's already slowing down. Marine has way more energy than it does. No issues. Lock R77 fired from 16 clicks. You can see how fast that R77 slows down there. That thing's dead.
Yeah, lots of long-range shots going on right now, though. The one from Saf looks like it might have some possibility on Blaze. He's got a 120 out in return, though. Looks like the terrain. Well, we're still in the flatlands portion
now,
here.
120B coming on Saf. Does he know that's coming? That thing might have enough energy to be able to turn with him. Does it? We can see him defending. I don't see a missile. I think he either notched it or it's out of energy. It's out of energy.
Yeah, it looks like it's running out.
So I thought maybe we'd see Saf and Stooge. I know at least Stooge had, or not Stooge, 104th has Maverick doing GCI using Lot ATC. I doubt Lock on Grease has a GCI. But I thought Saf was turning into Stooge there, but it doesn't look like that was the case. So Panther putting a 120B out on what I would assume is Stooge, but that's Stooge is already cold. So even if he gets that pitbull warning, he's like, whatever, guys, I'm just going to maintain my current heading, and that missile's going to be out of energy, and I don't have to worry about it. But Panther's staying hot. This one might be on Fallen. I can't tell who that missile's on yet.
He's got Riptide and Mustang in on him hot. His time in that is numbered right there. There we go. 2 shots out on him.
But both of those missiles coming from Mustang and Stooge are going to be a non-factor as Panther turns cold here. That's an awesome camera shot through the trees. Not really. Well, that was kind of cool seeing him come over the trees. That wasn't bad. I'll take that. But again, both teams playing very defensive. We didn't have missiles exchanged at the beginning for a long time, but now it's missiles being fired from every which way. Nobody really taking a really care about how many missiles left. And Joel, can you check to see how many missiles these guys have remaining? Because I think there's been a lot of 120Bs fired in both directions here. Aim 9 coming from Marine. Is that going to be a sneaky aim 9? It could be, depending on who that's on. Fallen turns cold, so I don't think that's going to be a factor. I think it's going to be out of energy, and indeed it is. So that's not an issue.
Majority of guys looking like they still have a few left. I know Marine is down to just IRs and Sidewinder, basically just Sidewinders at this point, but majority of the guys seem to have a number of, not a lot, but a decent balance between what they have left.
So I thought that aim 9 was going to be able to play some role. It was on Fallen. I thought Fallen was going to commit, but he didn't smartly. Stooge shot an ER and then immediately went defensive, so that missile was unsupported. We could have that 120B. Panther could be in trouble here.
Oh, he turns quick on that one.
He's defending aggressively, but he's defending late. Is that 120B? No, it's dead.
It looked like he pulled a really quick split S on that one. I mean, he was 360 the other way in about a second.
I didn't see him from the F10 view. He wasn't defensive, but he was really aggressive when he did. And that missile just lost all of its energy by the time it got anywhere even close to Panther. So again, Lock on Greece being only 5 pilots, really, in my opinion, is flying quite well. They're down 4 to 6 right now, but they still have 4 pilots remaining. Playing very defensive, not really making any mistakes. I don't think 104th is either. We could see our first... Oh, Scooby. As soon as I say that, well, both of the guys are turning cold now, expecting that, you know, Stooge and Scooby not knowing what the other bandit is here, expecting that there could be an AIM-9 in the air or somebody that they don't see. So they wisely turn cold. But Stooge, I'm going to assume that this was his GCI, immediately turns back in hot with Fallen. So now instead of him being a singleton, he's now a 2-ship. So we've got a 2-ship of Fallen and Stooge to the north, Mustang and Riptide to the south, and Spade and Blaze. I'm going to put them together down here to the far south. Panther and Marine starting to get in deep over here on the northwest.
Interesting to see Marine out front too. I believe he's only got Sidewinders left, so we'll see if Panther is backing him up, although there's a really fast shout out on Marine.
I think he's in trouble. I think that 120B is going to cause him trouble as he defends now, but that may be too late. And indeed it is. Second casualty of the day, and Panther may be in trouble here from Fallen coming in on his flank. He's still not defensive. I don't see any countermeasures up. Is he trying to notch it? Is he going to be able to? I don't know.
That AIM-9 looks like it's got some momentum.
That 120B that just launched, he's turning into it. It hit him. And there's the second one, so he does get splashed. He's a dead man.
Saf firing away coming in from the north there, but it too little too late.
And Lock on Greece is down to 2 pilots remaining. 6 still for 104th. So 104th in their current way is showing airborne supremacy in the Anapa versus Sochi region. Stooge recommitting. He's not with Fallen this time. He's by himself. Let's see if we can get... Can't see who he's foxing on here. Can see the missile coming from Stooge, and he takes him down. 120B, who's that on? I thought that was going to be on Stooge. Thought Stooge was going to be in a little bit of trouble, but he's not. Sorry, guys. The F5 view is a little bit zoomed in. Couldn't tell who we were looking at there. So we'll zoom out. So Saf is the only one remaining for Lock on Greece. And he's head-to-head now with
him.
Yeah, he's head-to-head with 3 guys. That 120B, he gets it into a notch. It's not effective. But Fallen and Stooge are pressing. And I think as close as this is now, Saf is in a world of hurt. He's in trouble now.
Yep. And you got to think 104 is probably going to start sending some guys back here now. It'd probably be the smart thing to do at this point. Just consider it. And it looks like that's got some momentum on it.
Yep, he gets taken down. I think that was the missile from Stooge there. Probably an ET. They were close enough that, or sorry, it was an ER that missile was just going to be able to chase him down. So kudos to Lock on Greece for lasting that long with the pilot down and not having a GCI. That was,
I think
that was tough.
All things considered there, I think they did pretty well. I think they did, you know, as I was saying, the formation tactics there in the beginning, they tried to draw them up and back a little bit and make them play their game. And to a degree, I think for the first, you know, several minutes of that match, Lock on Greece was able to dictate the pace a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, 104th tactics of keeping some guys back and sending those two, the pairs up to kind of come out and challenge was really enough to do it in the end.
Right. Well, while we watch these guys RTB, because I haven't seen anything come from anybody, I'm going to get TACView ready. So what do you think of that matchup? What did you think both teams could have done better, worse? How do you think that whole thing went down?
Well, I think, like I said, I would have liked to have seen lock on grease, maybe drag it a little bit more inland, use a little bit more of that terrain, stay low, maybe spread out a little bit more, and try to force those 104th guys in pairs to try to come find them. However, I think what they did in the initial phases and trying, like I said, trying to dictate the pace of this whole thing, I think that worked. I just would have liked to have seen them kind of hold their own a little bit more once the fray started. But credit to 104th for coming out, playing their game, sticking to it, not overcommitting in too many areas. Always, at any given time, I felt like I looked at 104th guys. There was always someone there to cover egress, cover the commitment. They really played good positional, squadron tactics there.
Right. Looks like these guys are rejoining here. And actually, I can't get the TAC view ready to go until we close down this server, unfortunately. Watch these guys RTB. Looks like they're climbing. They're currently passing 8,000. I don't think fuel's going to be much of an issue for these guys. Most of them at 95%. It's
yeah, you have to think some of those guys were hanging back, conserving fuel as well, just waiting to jump into it.
Yeah, and it's not too long of a flight. It's 140 kilometers, which in the grand scheme of things isn't too long.
No, sir.
But they do have to come down through the fog.
That's true. It's never an easy task to land in thick fog. However, I'm sure all of these guys are well capable of the task.
Force now marking. So what I would have liked to see, especially coming from Lock on Grease here, is when they did commit, they committed in really one by one. There really wasn't a concentrated push, if you will. It was just, we're going to recommit, and then when they recommitted, they had a tendency to defend. All of the casualties that happened there, nothing really got down to a merge. It was just when they committed and a 120B got foxed on them. It was only one hit that I saw that came from an ER. All the other ones were 120Bs, I think. They just defended really late. And if they did defend, it wasn't really an aggressive pull maneuver or a crank. It was just kind of a lazy turn, or it was just way too late. And by that time, the missile was still under power, and they couldn't do anything. The missile, when it's still under power, there's really not much you can do unless you can get it into a notch. But when you're that close, you better be really slow to be able to notch it. So I would have liked to see a more concentrated push coming from Lock on Grease. And honestly, I would have liked to see the same come from 104th. There were lots of times where they were just kind of all over the place, and I would have liked to see some more shape. And I'm really nitpicking here on the 104th side, but some more shape, just in case shit did hit the fan, could have been a plus.
I think, to the point you made about the lock-on guys maybe hanging in there too long, I think maybe that stems from being down a man. You kind of feel like you're pushing into this situation. You need to hold on a little bit longer and maybe see what you can't do evading that missile when it comes in. And I think maybe that's kind of was in the back of their head there, is, we need to kind of push a little bit harder, push a little bit longer here because we are down a man. I wonder if that affected the mental aspect of it.
Rohan asks a good question. Do you think that the F-18 will be better than the F-14 at any point? Honestly, well, I'd have to see how big of an advantage the data link provides it and the AIM-9X. Now, from a 120B perspective, I don't think so.
Well, I mean, I think you know, you look at, was the F-18 ever intended to be more of an air superiority fighter than the F-15? No, I don't think the U.S. government ever intended for that to be the case. You know, they're different birds there. The F-15C is an air superiority fighter. Its main and only job is to go up and dominate the skies that it's in. As with the 18, it's, you know, it's designed around a different set of objectives, and you know, yes, it can go up and do some of these things that the F-15 can. However, that's not what they, you know, the full intentions of that plane were for. So I don't know. I don't want to say apples to oranges, because it's not necessarily that, but they are different platforms, I think, at the end of the day. So to expect,
well, I think it kind of is. I mean, they were designed for different purposes. The F-15 was designed originally, and granted, yes, the F-15 Mudhen is a potent air-to-ground striker, but the F-15 was designed around the idea of it being an air-to-air superiority fighter because the U.S. was trying to combat the supposed super fighter that they thought the MiG-25 was when it was indeed around the 70s. The F-18, I think when it was originally designed, it was designed originally to compete with the F-16, because that's what it was designed for, the Air Force. And then the Navy came along, was like, hey, we're looking for a new fighter. And the F-18 having been beat by the F-16, because the F-16 used, I think, a single one of the F-15 engines, and the Air Force liked the fact that it was a parts commonality there, chose it. But the Navy came back and said, hey, we need a multi-role fighter. We're trying to downplay the number of fighters we need on our carrier. They saw it as a good replacement, because it was a jack of all trades, master of none. Now the F-18 Super Hornet may be a bit better, but I still think we're falling into the idea of we're comparing a multi-role fighter in comparison to a air superiority, air supremacy fighter from the drawing board up.
Well, and I think to the question too, and Iron Mike and a couple of the other guys bring this up, you know, as far as SATAL goes, the 14 I think is really going to be the one to surpass the 15 there. You know, you could really, that's really the comparable aircraft, I think, at the end of the day, as far as capabilities, is in air superiority, at least.
I don't know about that. I think if you, from an era point of view, if we're limiting the F-15 to AIM-9 or AIM-7s and stuff, yeah, we'll have to see how the AIM-54 goes. But I think the F-15 is a more capable fighter. I think it's the F-14. I'm not downplaying the F-14 at all. I will buy the F-14 when it comes out. But the F-14, from what I understand it, can be temperamental. It is not a... You've got to manhandle it. It actively tries to kill you when you go into turns and stuff. And the F-15 to me, from what I understand of it, and guys in chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more like a like a present-day supercar, whereas maybe an F-14 is more like an older Ferrari F-50 or F-40, where it's still very capable, but it's more analog. You're going to get thrown around a lot more because it was just designed at a different time. It was designed for a different purpose. Not necessarily a different time, but different ideas and so on and so forth.
I think that makes complete sense. The F-15C definitely benefits from some of the technological advances, you know, that they learned through the course of things like the F-14 and other programs. You know, they're two planes designed in two separate periods of time, and that should certainly be noted in that conversation.
Oh, Iron Mike, I'm not saying it's trying to kill you all the time. I'm just saying it's more of a pilot's plane. Like, the pilot input is more important from my point of view. You're going to have more effect on the plane. I think the F-15 is more like a supercomputer. And I'm not downplaying either plane. And I could be wrong. This is just from my understanding and having read things and all that stuff.
The 15, there's a certain maneuverability about it. When you keep it at the right speed, it can feel like it's on rails at times, which is quite a nice feeling.
Let me put it this way: the F-14 to me is more analog. It's more, yeah, analog circuitry instead of computers. The A and B, which is what we're getting. The D, on the other hand, is a different animal. See if we can get these guys in a break coming over the runway. Don't see him yet through the fog.
It will be an interesting though, in about a year plus from now, to see what aircraft are competing in SATAL. You know, obviously, you know, as I think you've noted, you know, many aircraft are open, but everyone chooses to use that either, you know, J-11, Su-27, or the F-15 combos. But, you know, as these planes expand and as, you know, SATAL grows, it'll be interesting to see what players choose to compete with as they get more options.
I think the F-18 is going to be a solid contender, solely because it's a clickable cockpit. It may not be as capable of the F-15. When it gets into a merge, that could be different because the F-18 has pretty high, what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty high.
It's fairly highly maneuverable at low speed. I don't know if that's what you're kind of going for.
Pretty high instantaneous turn rate is what I was looking for in AOA. Now, the F-15 may be able to maintain its turn rate a little bit better because of its higher engines, its higher output, its higher thrust, which in my opinion is what makes it such a good air superiority fighter. Its ability to turn and its ability to provide thrust. But the F-18 in a dogfight, man, that's going to be a thing to reckon with.
No doubt about it. No, we've already seen it do some pretty impressive stuff, and you know, as it gets further flushed out, I think, you know, that's only going to grow more. So I'm excited to see the first time F-18 competes in SATAL. I'll say that much.
Well, I think we're waiting for the helmet-mounted sight and track wall scan.
Yeah, I agree. I think those would probably be the two bigger features we'd need, you know, for it to be a close to complete fighter for SATAL. And I think we're, you know, per the more recent updates from Eagle Dynamics, I think the next feature priority is the helmet mounted system. So hopefully we're going to be getting that within the next few weeks.
Well, there's a possibility we could be getting it next week, I think.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Because they said by the end of August. So here's the first guy landing for 104th. Nice landing off the brake. Nice and smooth. Let's grab the second one here. These guys are all stacked up now.
And I'd have to agree with Grumpy Finn there. I'd take TWS over the helmet sighting. Although, after sitting in that flanker, and I finally this week sat down and spent some time in the flanker and started to familiarize myself, and I got to use that helmet-mounted sight. And boy, what a joy that thing is to operate. I really hadn't exposed myself to it.
Interesting landing coming from one of these guys. He's still over the grass. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there.
Request to fly by the pattern there.
Maybe. He had his gear down. I think he was trying to land. So one more, and then we'll jump and look at the tack view while these guys get reset. And this is Stooge bringing it in with the J11. I know that because he's the only J11 on 104th right now. Okay, so I'm going to get this all shaped up. Let's switch the talk show here. And I'm going to see if I can get tack view ready to go. So Grumpy Finn says before the AIM 9X. So you still got to close the gap first before the AIM 9X does anything. Yeah, what are your impressions on the AIM 9X? There's been a lot of talk of the AIM 9X here lately, especially with Wags having put out that stuff about the increase of the HOB and its increase to countermeasures resistance. How do you think it's going to shape up coming in here?
I've seen some pretty impressive stuff out of it so far. My best shot with it, and I guess my best Hobbs shot with it, was unfortunately a team kill, but I fired a 9X and it came off the left rail and almost went over the canopy. Like, I watched it kind of curve right over the canopy. I've never seen a missile do anything like that. To watch it in the moment like that was a pretty amazing thing. I still think we have a little bit of reliability as far as countermeasures and getting the true performance out of it. Obviously not having that helmet, definitely hampers things, but to me, it certainly could be a game changer for that plane, especially in the merge. I really think, you feel like you have something to combat that feeling of when when the flanker's behind you, or when you're in the merge of the flanker, that feeling in the back of your head that, they can be at a completely different angle than you to get that shot. You almost feel like you're just at a little bit more of a level playing field.
Yeah. I just feel like that AIM 9X, especially with its... Let me put it this way. I don't know how I feel. I like the idea of the AIM 9X. I like the technological advances. I like that it's in DCS. My only issue with this is I don't know how I feel about it in a competitive setting. Just because to me, it's almost like a laser beam. If you get in close and you can't do anything about it with the countermeasures, and it's got an HOB of 90, effectively you can fire it out of a notch, and it's just... You get in close with somebody and you can't do anything. It's just, he's dead. And to me, that takes out the pilot equation of what we want in a competitive environment of may the best pilot win. Whereas in a case like, I get that you can do some things with it. You can say, well, I'll just come up from behind him. But also from a viewer's perspective, it can be kind of boring, if I will.
See, I guess, and this is where my inexperience, how does the Russian equivalency compare? I mean, you guys do have a high off-bore capability as well. I just don't, so for me I don't know how well that compares to the Russian equivalent, I guess.
Well, it does okay. The 73 has an off-bore, an HOB of 60, so the AIM 9X is 30 degrees more, and then it has the same IR coefficient for flares as the AIM 9 does. So it's 0.5. Whereas right now, the AIM 9X is 0.2. And I'm pretty sure they're going to drop it to like at least 0.1, maybe even 0, because that's what it should be in real life. And at that point, it's just kind of, what's the point? I mean, you just going to pull the trigger. It's like having an aimbot in competitive play. You pull the trigger when they're in close and you just kill somebody. I mean, there's not much you can do to get away from it. So that's my opinion on it. Now, what we do with it in competitive play, I don't know.
Doesn't that do something where it forces you to not allow somebody to get in with insight enough to use that, or is it kind of pushes, I don't know.
We'll just
the
have to see
boundaries a little bit, right?
We'll just have to see. We'll have to see what goes on. So
absolutely.
Let's jump to we can revisit that when we get the matchbook up. But let's talk about the TAC view. So, TAC view. Everybody's really defensive going in here. I'm not really entirely sure what Lock on Grease was doing at the beginning of this fight. I think they were trying to lull 104th into sleep here. Maybe trying to get them to make a mistake. But that didn't really happen. 104th stayed very disciplined. Look at all those missiles coming off of Officer right there as he goes in. Wow. This was when Officer died, and this is just... He fired... Well, they're not all from Officer. I think one's from SAF. But he put out 4 120Bs as like a last hurrah going in here before he eats the 120B coming off the rail from... Who did that come off of? I think that came off of Riptide. So he just got in too deep, defended too late, wasn't aggressive enough when he was defending there, and paid for it. So he was the first casualty. Who dies next? Everybody, we go back into the really kind of just nice and slow. People are defensive. Nobody gets in really too deep. And then I think it's coming up. Nothing's happened yet. It's right here. So it was the flanking maneuver that we saw come from Fallen and Stooge, who got redirected. They were pushing hot on Scooby. And then I'm assuming this was their GCI that redirected them over here on their 2-ship. So Panther gets taken down first. And this was just a pure thing of Marine gets taken down first, of him not defending early enough. He defends too late. And this is a 120B coming from Mustang here against Maverick, or Marine, sorry. And there's still, how far is that? I mean, they're not, that's a decent distance. I mean, he's had plenty of time to defend against that 120B, and he just doesn't. And we can see here that he's still not defending. And when he does defend, it's just way too slow, and he can't do anything. So he goes down, and at this point, Panther gets flanked by Fallen and Stooge, and he just...
It looks like he held on a little bit too long there.
He recommitted. He had the 120 beat. So when he turned cold, he had it beat. And what ended up happening is he recommitted and gave that 120B a chance to hit him. And that's all she wrote.
Yep.
Once he tried, I guess he was trying to notch it, thinking that it was too late and he wasn't going to outrun it, but he had the energy to get away from it. So right here is the next kill. Stooge is in deep here. I think this is actually an R77. Yep, it is. So Scooby just into too deep here. I guess got the Pitbull warning too late that the missile was on him, and eats that 77, doesn't do anything to defend it. And the last guy remaining is Saf, turns cold here, it starts to run, but Stooge has enough energy to close the gap, and that ER is still under power. He can't outrun it. The ERs are way too fast, and he just gets run down. So that's all she wrote there. And let's jump to round 2.
Good effort from Lock On though, considering.
Yeah, I would agree there. So
I think the no GCI is a bigger factor even at times than the being without the 5th or the 6th player.
People underestimate the importance of having a GCI and having that eye in the sky.
Oh, it really is a big factor. Somebody up there who can read the picture in a very precise, quick manner is worth their weight in gold. There's no doubt about it in this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna watch Lock On Grease Taxi this time. Let's jump to our environment here. So Lock On Grease this time, and I didn't really check to see what they were flying.
I want to say they were mostly F-15s, but I could be wrong.
Get caught up here on the conversations that's going on while we watch these guys school. So Stink says war is not supposed to be fair. I agree that war is not supposed to be fair, but this is not war. This is what we're doing here is a competitive environment. I'm not simulating a war here. We're doing a competitive environment like Counter-Strike, if you will. So while I get that war is not supposed to be fair, we want pilot skill to shine in this competitive environment, because that's what SATAL is. If we're trying to do a war scenario like Blue Flag, I get that. I understand that, you want different weapons on both sides and balance is kind of an issue, but you want strength and balances. But in here, we want in 51st, and I don't speak for all of 51st when I voice my opinions on the M9X, because I don't know what we're going to do. But we want pilot skill to be at the center of what SATAL and all of these competitive events are. I don't want somebody just to be able to go up, pull the trigger, and the other guy just dies. I mean, that's fine, but to me, it's not really fun from a viewer standpoint, because you guys don't get to see exciting gameplay. You just get to see people pulling the trigger and people dying. And it's also not exciting for the pilots because they want a chance to be able to defend themselves and show who the best pilots are. And that, in a competitive arena, if you don't have that, what's the point?
No, and I think, and even as someone who likes the Hornet, loves the AIM-9X, is that's my thing, I completely agree with that, because at the end of the day, I don't want to come on here and sit here and watch somebody come up, oh, well, for the 5th week in a row, the Hornets and their AIM-9Xs have decimated. Not that that would be the case, but that's not entertaining. That's not quality, you know, what we're trying to do here. You really are trying to create an environment that pits these pilots skill v skill, not, you know, well, he's at the better advantage because he chose this plane and it has this weapon that really can't be defeated. I think at the end of the day, finding that balance is the most paramount thing here to keep that competitive level where, where it needs to be.
We just don't know where that balance is.
Correct, and that'll take time. So I think, you know, keep doing the research, keep testing things out, and I think you know, we'll continue to get a good product out of SATAL if we condition it in that manner.
Not entirely sure what's going on with my my frame rate here. Snake, I don't think we banned the F-18. We just have to see what kind of factor the AIM-9X is.
Yeah, and I agree, and you know, and I think, you know, you throw the term events around, that's kind of a broad thing. Well, what type of an event is it? What's the premise of the event? So, I mean, just because it's an event doesn't mean everything needs to be included in it. So I think at the end of the day, you got to kind of look at what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, yeah. But that's neither here nor there. It's really just going to be a problem for next year. We'll have to see how the balance shakes out and how all that goes down. So 104 saying they're almost ready. Oh, sorry guys, got to get the attack view repositioned here for you.
Fair point, Iron Mike. It is really about the squadrons at the end of the day here. Cats don't even worry. I don't think anyone's talking about banning the F-18. Yeah, I completely agree with that, Iron Mike. I think that's the right outlook on it. You know, if that's the squadron's choice and they can maneuver and make that work for them, so be it. Let them fly with it, as long as it's not, you know, like as we were just stating with something like the 9X or something like that, where it's creating that competitive imbalance. You know, I think at the end of the day, if you can make it work, by all means.
Let's get back to the matchup. So what I'd like to see out of Lock on Greece is a little more discipline, like we spoke about in the first round. Of I want to see them, if they do commit, to not just commit by themselves. I want to see them commit together.
Well, I'm curious if they're going to change any formation tactics up. I get the feeling we're going to see the same story out of 104th with the two pairs with decent 5 to 6 mile separation like we're seeing right now. The question is what is Lock on Greece going to do in comparison?
I don't know. But Kunto and Stink, I'm not saying the F-18 is an issue. The only thing I brought up, and this is the last thing I'll say, is the AIM-9X itself. I'm not doing anything about the F-18. I love the plane. I would never ban an airframe. It's just the AIM-9X. That's it. It's that. So restrict them to M's. I don't know what we're gonna do. We have to see the update. And I'm just saying that I want to provide as competitive an environment in SATAL as possible, and that is it. So we'll leave it there. I'm not entirely sure what Lock on Greece is doing.
Yeah, they're leaving 4 or 3 at the base and sending 2 up, huh?
Maybe they're just going for separation, like you just said.
Yeah, very well could be. We'll see what 104th does to react to this. See how long they leave these three on the runway. Keep a marker on them, let you know when they're spooling up.
Sitting in silence.
Oh, and there we go. It looks like those three are moving on the runway now.
Yep. I see two guys taking off again, so I guess they were just trying to build separation between everything now.
Well, I'd like to see them try to drag it into those mountains there. I really think when you get into the numbers disadvantage, using whatever confusion you can create in there by, reducing the GCI's picture and reducing some of the visibility is to your best advantage.
Yeah, I'd almost like you said, if they go into the mountains, I'd like them to get low.
Yep.
And try and do something new, try and use the fog, try and drag the fight down low. I think they're all... No, it's 3 F-15s and 2 J-11s, so... I don't know. I don't know what they can do. I don't know how this is going to shake out.
Well, it'd be interesting if I recall last time they did that turn back where they seemingly just kept trying to draw 104th in closer to them, and as soon as they got the pair to commit, they all seemed to come back hot on that single pair that was moving towards them. So we'll see if they do something similar here as far as pulling something unorthodox like that.
And guys, I gotta shut down the TACView stream because I think it's killing my frame rate on my gaming rig, and that's gonna kill what this all looks like. So, or it's not. Why am I limited to 30 FPS here? My computer's having some trouble. Not sure why. I guess we'll just shake it out. So I'll restart the stream for the TACView, as that's not the issue. You guys are just gonna have to deal with low FPS going in here. I'm not entirely sure why it's decided to take a massive dump. Do I have time is the question to relaunch DCS. I think I do. So I'm gonna relaunch DCS here real quick, and we're going to see if we can fix this.
Interesting tactics here by 104th right now.
Make sure I don't have anything. It's not recording. We'll go ahead and relaunch. Sorry, guys. Hopefully she comes back. It's not that the real-time TACView is a hog. I think my DCS was having issues because when I shut down the stream, it decided that it wanted to continue to be a problem. Soul, it is all the porn, man. I don't know. I got no defense for that. Should just be a second, guys. So let's get in here.
Could be a good opportunity. I saw you updated your mod pack, by the way.
I did. So I made some changes. It should be up there. I put up some videos and stuff for everything, so people now have a demo of what things can sound like. But now would be a good time while we're waiting on everything to thank our sponsors. So if you guys don't know, if you're new to SATAL, we're sponsored by a bunch of awesome guys and awesome companies. TACView, Lot ATC, Buddy Fox. We're Sky Knights. We're in collaboration with 51st and 104th. Everybody's providing awesome stuff. If you click down below, you have direct links to everything, but the biggest and baddest sponsor of them all is Heapler, obviously providing. Without them, this wouldn't really be possible. So I'll leave it at that for now because I want to make sure we don't miss anything going in here. I think I got some frame rate. I got my frame rate back. Okay. So we should be golden.
We are looking good here. We have a line formation by 104th, although they're breaking two off to go out to sea right now, and then a big bit of separation between two pairs and one lone fighter from Lock on Grease, and they are about 20 miles separated across the board there.
Yeah, I think they're doing the same thing. 104th, I think they're just going into a different way of doing it. So I can see Mustang and Riptide breaking off again. I think it's going to be 3-2 ships going into this. This was just a different way to break into it. The thing, I'm worried about Lock on Grease. They're pretty separated with these elements. Granted, it's only 30 kilometers. That's on the brink. I know that's what 51st does. We'll just have to see how the discipline goes with all this stuff. So Spade and Blaze head-to-head against Scooby and Saf. 50 kilometers apart now. What... Are we going to see a lot of what we saw in the first round here? Is it going to be very similar to how the first round shaped up, where both teams are very defensive? It already looks like Scooby and Saf are defensive here going into this. Nixon, buddy. Thanks for the follow. Yeah, it looks like we're going to see much of the same from round one, where both teams are very defensive going into the early parts of this engagement. Let's see here what we've got. Make sure you guys can see everything. Looks like you're good. Let's minimize that. Leave that up. We're okay. Okay. Just making sure the tac view is working. Glad we got the frame rates under control. So both teams are still very defensive going into this. Both of them are effectively in 3-2 shifts, while Lock on Grease just has the Singleton of Panther bringing up the rear. No missiles have been exchanged yet. We're just hanging out and wait. Wonder if the discipline's going to be really similar to how everything shook out in the first round. 104th was able to maintain it a little bit better in round one than Lock on Grease. As the round progressed, Lock on Grease kind of dissolved into a Singletons just kind of poking and prodding the 104th elements, and they paid for it.
Scooby and Stooge now looking like they might be turning hot. We'll see if we don't get a if both sides don't turn away here in the same defensive fashion they did before, but it seems like we might have our first bit of contact shaping up here.
And I don't... Soul asks if they're low. No, they're not. Uh-oh. What happened to Tech View?
30,000.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, guys. Tech View should be fixed now. Had a menu open. Nobody's low. Everybody's still really high. I mean, Lock on Grease is definitely lower than 104th. They've got 3,000 here with this two-ship of Saf and Scooby. Panther is really high. Holy crap. He's at 14,000, pushing 15,000 in his F-15. I don't know if he's going to try and sneak in high altitude. Scooby and Saf are effectively playing rabbits to the dogs of Stooge and Fallen.
They are low to 8,000, 10,000.
But since Stooge and Fallen and the rest of the 104th boys have a GCI, I don't think this high tactics is gonna pan out. But we do have Officer and Marine taking a flanking maneuver over here to the north, trying to come in on the eastern flank of the 104th Squadron. What's gonna happen?
Yeah, interesting to know whether, not Lock on not having a GCI, how that's factoring into those two guys pulling out and around, whether, that's something almost out of necessity for not having that, and whether or not the 104th GCI is picking up on that and routing some guys out to deal with it, which it does look like Fallen and somebody else, Stooge, are now tracking north to come, tracking at least towards that flight.
What I'd like to see here is Mustang and Riptide to commit with Stooge and Fallen here. Even if they don't commit, I'd like to see some long foxes coming from these two to put Scooby, Panther, and Saf on the defensive. 120Bs coming from Officer. Fallen immediately goes defensive here. I'm pretty sure he did that early enough. Yeah, that 120B's dead. Officer gets these two 120Bs into a notch. I think they were on him. What's going on with Marine? Marine, are you in trouble? Are you going to eat those 120Bs? Were they made for you? I don't know.
Whoa.
No, they
nice
weren't.
Evasion there.
They were for Officer.
And we have a 3-on-2 forming up down here over the water with Mustang and Riptide. It's going to depend on how Blaze and Spade can kind of come into...
Yeah, and both of those guys from Mustang and Riptide are immediately defensive. I think Mustang saw the ET launch. Panther, are you going to be able to get away from that 120? There's the chaff. He's in a vertical notch. I think he's okay. Yeah, he's okay.
He really puts that split S on her. I can't see it from the top-down view. I'm assuming it's a split S, but he drops the ball on that thing and spins it real quick. It's pretty impressive from here, at least.
Yeah. So Stooge is now in by himself in the lone J11 from the 104 side. Is he still rocking full payload? He is. He's got 2 ETs, 2 77s, and 2 ERs. So we'll have to see how he puts those to work. He's got a flank on Officer. No, he doesn't. He decided to turn cold. I thought he was going to press Officer, but he decided enough is enough. I'm going to turn cold. Don't want to get in too deep by myself. And turns cold.
Spade.
Back
Got
to
some momentum.
Recommit with his other guys. 120B coming from Spade on Officer. Officer is still hot. Is that too late? I think it might be. There's the missile impact. Officer takes one to the face. And ET coming from Stooge to finish him off. Yeah, he's going to eat that.
Yeah, there he goes.
See you later. And Stooge, if he sees Marine here, I think he does. There goes another ET off the right rail. Uh-oh. This is trouble. There it is. Is he still operational? I don't know. That ER he launched second just kind of went dead. Saf took one, but he's still up. I can't see him any longer. And it looks like down to the south Riptide is able to dispatch Marine. So 3 guys, sorry, that was the first casualty going down there. Stooge now has got the flank on Panther. Let's watch this from Panther's perspective coming in here. 120B coming off of Panther, and Blaze puts a 120B head on with him. He's going defensive, but is it enough? I think it is. That 120B trying to pull those maneuvers going in there is going to be dead in the water as he extends. Yep. Stooge, are you going to come in here? Stooge, you're in close. 6 kilometers. That's danger close for Panther. And I think that's an ER coming off the rails. Coming off the rails. That is trouble. We can see it coming in there on the right.
Tracking uphill.
That should have plenty of energy as it comes in. I lost view of it. Is it? I don't think it's going to make it. I don't think it did.
This had to travel about 5,000 feet upward. It was, I think he fired for about 1,000.
Yep. And it was actually a 77. If that was an ER, he would have been dead.
Yeah,
no questions asked.
Well, these 3 certainly holding their own right now, outnumbered by 2-1 here.
We actually missed a kill of Marine killing Fallen. Sorry, guys, we missed that, but I didn't see that. Stooge and Spade pressing as a 2-ship against Saf and Scooby. 77s coming from the J11s on the lock on Grease side. They immediately turn cold as those 120Bs are going to have significantly more energy. And sorry, guys, I need to get rid of these webcams. Significantly more energy by the time they reach their targets than those 77s will. Stooge may be able to press on an isolated Panther up here to the north.
He's going to need his buddies to circle back and quick.
Panther's in trouble. Panther is in a world of trouble. We can see the ER coming off the rails low. Pretty sure that's an ER. It's still on energy. Yep, Panther's dead. There he goes.
Yeah. Didn't even get a chance to get a shot out.
Stooge, is the GCI going to recommit him onto Scooby? I think he is here. Scooby's going to be in trouble. There goes the missile. I think that was an ER. Could be an ET going on Stooge. There goes the 77. I think that was the 77 coming off the rail. 73 coming in exchange from Stooge. Can't tell.
Mustang coming in, shot out on Scooby. Doesn't look like that's going to have enough. Although it might.
No, he's turned cold. The only thing that's going to catch him is an ER as he turns cold there. They're separated now by 8 kilometers. Scooby's now cold. I think an ER might catch him there if he can see him. Can he see him? Some altitude separation there. Oh, we're looking at the wrong guy. So Scooby, is he by himself? No, Saf is down here. Saf, I'd like to see you recommit and come in here on the flank of Mustang and Stooge, but you got to be low to make sure that GCI doesn't see you coming.
Yeah, they need to be helping each other right now.
Here comes a 120B. I think that's trouble. That's gonna have plenty of energy by the time it gets here, unless he can line of sight it. It might run out of energy. He's really fast.
He's turning away. Ooh.
Yeah, I think he's out of energy.
Looks like
another 120B coming off a Mustang. That one, I think, is going to spell doom for him.
Interesting shot.
I keep saying this, and he keeps living.
Right? Hanging in. But now he's back, regrouped with Saf. We'll see if these two can't be a force to reckon with. They have 3 broken off down here towards them, with another 2 coming in hot.
But on the other perspective of this, I like that Saf is regrouped with Scooby, but 104th has played this smartly, and they have now all come together. They're not separated. They can provide mutual support, provide better situational awareness since they have more eyeballs in the same area. And I like that they're regrouping here. That 120B on Scooby, though,
doesn't look good. Man, lots of shots out on those two right now.
He might be able to line of sight that. I think I can see it. We can see it chasing him. We can see it right behind him. It's out of energy. I got excited.
Almost.
ER coming from Saf. I think that's on Stooge. That might be on Spade. That's on Spade. Saf may be in trouble here as Spade is in danger close with him. Saf doesn't know he's there because Stooge has line of sight. Pops over the hill. Does he see him? But it doesn't need to. Saf eats a 120, and that's all she wrote for him. So Scooby's the last man standing coming from the lock-on Grease side. Can he take somebody down with him? What's he gonna be able to do? Stooge being out of IR missiles puts a 73 on Scooby, and Scooby's gonna eat that one. There it is. Doesn't flare.
That's all she wrote.
Too slow, and boom goes the dynamite. Lock-on Grease team being dispatched. 5 remaining for 104th. And that was
104th only suffered 1 loss today, if I remember correctly. They did. That was impressive showing for them. They needed it today too, so that was good.
So they're going to RTB. They still have to come through the fog. Good showing by Lock-on Grease coming in there with the man down. I think people underestimate how significant a disadvantage it can be coming in with a man down into these engagements.
It really, really, really can. Especially, and like I said, not having the GCI too. I really think that's a big factor in the equation there.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I did forget to mention, yeah, not having a GCI, that is huge going into this. So shout out to the new followers of Paul R282, Dartanoth, and Anti-Static. Welcome. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. It's been a decent one today. I didn't know. I had words coming from Lock-on Grease that they were only going to have 4 pilots. So them having 5 has been a pleasant surprise. Kami comes in, says, shit, I missed everything again. Man, you just got to get up earlier.
Oh man, yeah. No, you missed a good one today, Kami. This was an interesting matchup. I think, considering the differences between the two as far as the disadvantages go, I think Lock-on did a very good job of holding their own in the environment, at least.
Yeah, Kami, not only are you late to the party all the time in your F5, but you're late today.
I saw him in a Mirage the other day, I believe. We were going up against, but one of those servers.
Yeah, he was in a Mirage, I think, yesterday. A couple of the chatters are surprised, I guess, that you're wearing white today, Joel. Is that something you normally don't do?
This is great. I went with Under Armour. I thought that was one of our unofficial sponsors around here. I was just trying to
that's
stick
what we
with the
rock.
motif, you know.
Under Armour and Alpine Stars is what we do here. No, I wear a lot of Under Armour because being big, it's like the only thing that fits me.
Yeah, it's just I live in Florida, so I need to breathe.
2 new followers A Nuts or a Nuts and Octuple Fire. Octuple Fire, I swear you followed before, but you must get sick of me and then unfollow me, say fuck this guy, and then say I got nothing better to do. I might as well go back. Just watching 104th regroup and RTP to a Napa. They got plenty of weapons. A lot of them are still at 95% RPM, so I don't think fuel is much of an issue here.
Yeah, I don't think they were really pushed, or at least all of them were not pushed in necessarily at times to draw them down into the low fuel area. So this is going to help out 104th in the standings quite a bit. This is now going to put them at 5 matches played, 3 wins, 0 losses, and 2 draws. So this should now make the matchup between Chinese Festival and RVE on September 8th, the second to last week of the season. That's going to make that probably one of the most pivotal matches down the stretch here as far as seeding goes. And then we also still have one between SF and Reservoir Elite. I believe that is going to dictate heavy seeding, or has heavy seeding implications as well. So, and then 36 Stormo, they have one more match, I believe, against 59th Ravens, which that will have implications for them in seeding as well. So, depending on how SF and Reservoir Elite.
Let me bring that up here real quick. Hopefully I don't have porn on my browser. No, I don't. Let's just go ahead and drag this down here and look at what's going on with the standings. If you guys aren't familiar with Splash One Gaming, check out the Discord. Check out the website, splash1gaming.com. We use the merge for SATAL. It's a website built specifically for this. You can see all the pilot scores, all the pilot ratings, all the pass scores, how the teams are doing, schedules, all that jazz. So the remaining matchups here are going to be... Whoops, I really fucked that one up. Are 36th versus 59th next week. And then Ta versus Chinese Festival. Ta versus Chinese Festival, like you said, is a pivotal one coming into this. And then SF versus RVE is a big one. So I think you said it was RVE versus Chinese Festival, but it's actually Ta, which that is a big one, guys. That's a big time matchup for seeding. And so is RVE and SF. So we've got, these are all coming out of bracket 1. And both of these are... No, SF versus RVE is out of bracket 2. So Ta versus Chinese Festival is huge for bracket 1. SF versus RVE is huge for bracket 2. So we've got big time matchups coming up in the couple weeks. I think 36 versus 59th, they're out of bracket 2, is actually a big one for 36th. 59th, unfortunately, is out of the tournament, but 36th, well, I say that 36th is actually in because ITGC doesn't have another matchup, so 36 is actually in. But I think 36 versus 59th with nothing left on the table is going to be it'll be a fun one. I think the teams are pretty evenly matched. 36 may have the advantage there because they've flown more competitively, but 59th has made huge strides since they've started in this in SATAL. But the big ones, guys, is Ta and Chinese Festival and SF and RVE.
If 36 wins that, InSky is done with their matches for the year, and I believe that's going to put them over. I'm not sure how the tiebreaker will work out there, but I think if 36 Stormo wins that match, it's certainly going to make an interesting battle.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
position.
Absolutely right. So depending on how the KD goes and depending on how the head-to-head goes, and we'll have to look at that, that very well could be the case. That 36 could bump InSky down.
Yeah, that could be a very good matchup right there within itself. So the last 3 weeks of the year should heat up quite nicely. Have some very, very good, intense matchups for you guys as these teams try to claw their way in for better position.
So how far do we have to we're done RTB? And we're getting close. I'm going to assume 104th is going to do an overhead break again. Stooge looking like he's going to lead him in. So, Joel, what did you think of that matchup?
Once again, I think, you know...
I think it was more of the same.
Agreed. It's definitely more of the same. Lock On coming in with the obvious disadvantages we've spoken about on here, and I think, you know, I personally would have tried to drag things inshore a little bit more. I felt like in the plains there in the flats, with the numbers disadvantage, you're just making life harder for yourself. At least to me, it feels that way, and I'm sure somebody out there could probably counter, you know, make an argument counter to that. However, I would try to draw things a little bit further inland and really try to spread them out and get them off their game. At least I would have liked to have seen Lock On maybe do a little bit more to disrupt what 104th was trying to do there. But, you know, once again, not having the numbers, that's not easy to do.
Yeah. I agree. To me, though, it was just kind of more of the same, what we saw in round one. It's not a bad thing. I think Lock On Greece did the best they could against having a numerical disadvantage, not having a GCI. They were kind of shit out of luck in that regard. There's not much more they could do. So
yeah, you're left
that's
with
what I
few
see
options there.
But to talk about stuff that's happening in the future, sorry to change subjects again, guys. Above the stream, if you're on Twitch, there's an events tab. I talked about this last week. All of the coming matchups are in that tab. You can follow them. So the most important ones are starting October 6th. In that there's going to be 2 matches a day. So from October 6th to the 26th, I think, or the 27th, there's going to be a 1500 Zulu stream and an 1800 Zulu stream. There will not be a 1300 Zulu stream. So we're backing it up. So it's going to be a little bit later. And the hope is that we get most of our viewership later in the day. So we're going to try and provide a better and easier time of viewing for you guys during that time frame. So that's what we're trying to do there. But we're going to start out with the quarters, then the semis, and the finals, so on and so forth. But make sure you check that out. I think there's 4 weeks to that. I have 2 matches a day. It's going to be exciting stuff. Make sure you look at that on your calendars and follow and book them, and make sure you guys have alerts, because those are the exciting matches. Single elimination, end of the year tournament, starting October 6th. Where are you guys going? Where's everybody going? Are they turning? Yeah, they're turning. 5-ship echelon from 104th. I think they're just bleeding altitude here going into the overhead. Who do we have? Who am I? Yeah, I've got Blaze. Are they just going to do a straight in? Can't tell what they're doing here yet. Guess they're just trying to bleed speed as they come in here. But guys, while we watch these guys come in, another shout out to our sponsors. I'm going to go into a little more depth here. TacView, for all of their contributions. If you guys aren't familiar with TacView, you really should check it out. It's an amazing piece of software. It helps hugely with debriefings. Sorry guys, just trying to get my bearings on the way that I need to be looking. Hugely with debriefings and everything of the like. If you guys haven't looked at it, go check it out. He's got a free license. And then the advanced licenses. He's also contributed 6 advanced licenses for the winners, and I think it may be 3. I'd have to go check for the second place guys. Lot ATC, Dart, for all of his contributions in making GCI possible. The in-game GCI's got some problems, so we really appreciate all of his work with Lot ATC, providing free licenses for everybody participating in the SATAL events. Buddy Spike, for all of their contributions hardware side, the giveaways that they've done during the stream. Sky Knights, we're going to do some giveaways for them later, probably during the tournament side of all of this. So be watching for those. And then, of course, Heapler, for all of their contributions, both giving stuff away to the viewership and for infrastructure things and for prizes coming at the end. So winners of this get 500 euros and 6 modules coming from Heapler, and then the runners-up gets 6 modules as well. So big shout-outs to all of our sponsors. Without you guys, this really wouldn't be possible or as exciting to watch in any way, shape, or form. Just waiting for these guys to turn off base. They just went through their overhead break. Making sure I've got everybody here. 11. We're looking at the correct guys. I think we are. And guys, next year, I'm already starting to work with people on prizes and stuff, so we got some bigger and badder stuff, more stuff coming down the pipe. So get ready for that. We're doing this again next year. I love doing it. Hopefully you guys enjoy watching it. Change some stuff, make it a little bit easier for the viewership, but it's been fun to do. First guy touching down, so Spade touches down. Who's our second one coming in? Looks like Fallen. I guess Riptide's doing an overhead break here. At least that's what it looks like. Samurai, cheers 100 bits. Thanks, buddy. Much appreciated. Says, as usual, great events, fellas. Apparently, Kami1 needs a special invite. Kami just likes showing up classically late. He's late to the party. He wants his presence known, right? That's how he rolls. And Scome1 and JREM86 VCVW811. Thanks for the follow, guys. Just wrapping this up as the guys touchdown. We'll review the TAC view, and then that'll be it for this week. We'll have next week, which is 36th versus 59th, which I'm actually pretty excited about.
Yeah, I've yet to get to watch both of those two fight yet, so it'll be
Kevin,
nice too. Actually, I think 36th I may have.
We might have... I don't think we're going to have any interviews this week. We've already heard from 104th. I might be able to grab one of them to hear what they talk about with the round, but I don't know. I'll have to see if I can do one. There wasn't one planned according. Fallen, do you want to ask if anybody wants to do an interview about how the match went? Don't really need anything about how... about the team, since we already did that with 104th, but to talk about how the match went, I'd be down. So that's it for that. Let me see. Getting pings from somebody here. Iron Mike. So we're going to hear from Iron Mike. I'm going to go over the TAC views, though, real quick. So we'll jump to Top Show real quick while I set up the TAC views. What do you think, Joel, while I set up the TAC views here?
Well, I think, you know, we had ourselves a pretty interesting, you know, it was entertaining. There was no doubt about that. And, you know, it wasn't like some previous weeks where the action happened in a short burst of 30 seconds. It was pretty spaced out. We had a couple nice little almost engagements in the beginning, and then it kind of trickled into, you know, one by one, shot out, and things kind of came together in decent fashion this week.
Do you think, what are your opinions on what you think the teams could have done better or worse, for that matter, as this round finished up?
Well, I think Fourth seemed to come out, play their game plan like we've seen them do in the past. I don't know if I have the experience to nitpick what they did, or maybe nitpick isn't the right word, or at least break down what they may have done wrong in comparison to what they did right, which is a little bit more obvious to me. I think Lock on Greece, you know, I think, you know, it's tough to develop a game plan when you're in the situation they're in. You know, you really you're hamstrung by what you can and can't do there. So I think, you know, maybe for Lock On to dig down a little deeper, try to pull out something maybe a little bit more unorthodox next time. Try to go a little bit more outside the box there and use maybe some of your internal strengths to your advantages if you do feel you have that, you know.
Let's go through the match real quick before we get anybody in here. So both teams were really defensive. We saw the initial try and flank from Marine and Officer here. It didn't really pay out. Nothing, didn't pay dividends. Nothing really happened. Both teams were really defensive. Here's the first issue, or first casualty, is Officer. And he just gets in too deep. Doesn't defend. Maybe he didn't know Stooge was there. I'm not really sure what happened. So he just got in too deep and paid for it. Got flanked. Nothing you can do there. Soul coming in with the big tip, 10 bucks. Much appreciated, guys. And shout outs to Soul here real quick. He donated not only the $10, but he also sent me a T16000M HOTAS. So that'll be given away here.
Oh, nice.
Going forward, probably during the tournament at the end of the year. So we got tons of giveaways coming up. I've got plenty of stuff to give away. We're saving it up for the end of the year tournament. Build some hype. Lots of stuff coming. Huge shout outs to you, Soul. Big kudos. Much appreciated, man.
Thank you.
Awesome. So, again, with all of this, it's just people getting in too deep. So another casualty coming right here with Marine. Stooge actually takes down 2 on his flanking maneuver. Gets Officer first. Marine doesn't get a call out, and then he eats an ET to the side. So they're already down to 3 pilots. Or 2, actually. But a lot of this is just getting in too deep, not having the situational awareness. And Stooge was actually on a fucking warpath, man. He kills 3 guys here at the beginning of this round. So first 2, now Panther eats an ER to the face. And when you're in that close, if you're not slow enough to get into a mirage or a notch, that ER is going to fuck you up. It's going to hit you in the face and you're just going to die. So this is when I thought Scooby was going to keep taking him, and he just keeps outrunning those 120s. Recommits him with Saf, and as soon as he recommits, it's actually Saf that dies first.
Was that Stooge that went on a little rampage there for 104th? Was that 2 or 3 in a row he had?
Yeah, he took down 3. So, and then he was gonna take down Saf, but Saf eats a 120B, and before Stooge could get him, and Stooge actually takes down 4, takes down Scooby with the 73. So the one-man army fucking shit up for 104th there in that round. Hugely impressive. So we're gonna
talk about being in the zone. I'm
gonna grab Iron Mike here. We're gonna hear from him how the round goes and how they thought the round went. So hold on. Let me drag him down.
User was moved to your
Iron
channel.
Mike, welcome. You there?
Of course, I'm here. Hi,
yep.
Everybody. Thanks for streaming, Molter.
Of course. Roland. We just went through the TAC view, the second round. Take us through, obviously you weren't flying, but you were there. How did that round, let's start with the first round. How did everything play out for you guys in this matchup against Lock on Greece? What was your mindset going in? Start with that. And then we'll go into the first round. So what was your guys' mindset coming into this matchup? Because obviously it was important.
So Maverick was doing the GCI, and the basic idea was to have that spread in between our ships again, like we did the last time, so that whenever somebody goes cold, there's always one ship being hot. And if somebody's being pressed on or basically going defensive, then you always have somebody you can run towards. And like that, you get a mutual support, not only in between 6 guys, but also in between 3 ships. And can always back yourself up. Then when Lock on Greece went so far back, we actually at the first we didn't know what was happening. We honestly thought they were just disengaging the flight because it almost looked like they were flying out of the bubble. At that point, then we kind of got that they're playing the long game in terms of missiles and fuel. It was important for us to stay laid back. What
was your guys' reaction to how they started round 1? I mean, they went in, we thought they were going to commit, and then they kept turning cold. And like you said, they got to the edge of the bubble. How did you guys react to that?
Stay relaxed.
It seemed like they were trying to bait you guys into making a mistake.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you have to counter by just being even more relaxed. Just watching your fuel state, not going into afterburner. trying to stay laid back and basically let them come, because they cannot play this game forever.
Right.
And then just snap when it comes close enough, so you don't waste your missiles and you don't waste your fuel with unnecessary defensive maneuvers and so on. You know, so they were trying to bait us, and all you have to do is basically resist that baiting.
Mm-hmm. So moving on, I mean, let's talk about round 2. Did you guys go in with any other additional thoughts or things that you were going to execute during round 2 as opposed to round 1?
Yeah, so in round 2, as you've seen, we started not out with the 10 nautical miles spread like in round 1, because we expected them to do again the same thing, so you really do not need that kind of spread in order to stay supportive. So we went in like a wall maverick, put them up so that we were partially feet wet and partially feet dry. And the main idea was to stay in the low hills or feet wet as much as possible, so that we don't get dragged into some kind of terrain fight by Lock-on Grease. They separated much more, at which point then we also fell back into that same hot-cold pattern, so that always one ship can support each other when the other guy's cold. And again, the game was patience, you know, let them come in close, let them do the mistake. Since they were separated, as you've seen, there were a couple of engagements where they got cut off themselves, so they got flanked by our guys, so they pushed over the line so they could get picked up from the side. There was one unfortunate loss. It was Fallen, who was up against a guy who was basically falling out of the sky. He was in a spin, but he got a Maddock off and it killed Fallen. So we thought the guy was dead, but he still got one off his rail. So
looking
that
at
happens,
the TAC
you know.
views, that was really actually unfortunate, because he recommitted into that 120B, and somehow the 120B continued to track him, and that was just unfortunate.
That's DCS, and that stuff happens, you know. I mean, we lost one guy in 2 rounds. I think that is a very good result. Of course, Lock-on Grease showed up only with 5 pilots instead of 6, so that was at their own disadvantage. But like we discussed yesterday, and that is nothing against Lock-on Grease personal or so on, we have these issues in all the events. People sign up and then don't make a show. So squadrons and also single players who sign up for events, please, you know, you need to take the responsibility and of course commit to what you committed, and you know, just be there. But that said, I think Lock-on Grease did a really good job. Despite that, they held themselves well. They had some nice ideas. It wasn't as chaotic as it was in the last events I've seen from them, so I think we can see a huge improvement on Lock-on Grease's side here as well, which is always nice to see. And in that sense, I would like to congratulate them for giving us a really good fight.
Shout outs to Lock-on Grease for committing in here, even with, you know, pilots down, not having a GCI. I think that takes some balls to do. So kudos to them for doing that. They put on a great match. That was fun to watch. I'm glad we could do that this weekend. So
I think that was a solid point Iron Mike made. They certainly played better than their record they are today. So I think good job on them to be able to step up.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, Iron Mike, Alex, I appreciate you taking the time to go through the matchup with us. I know the viewership appreciates it. I think
of course, anytime.
That's all I got
Shout
time
out
for.
From Heatblur, maybe.
Yeah.
Heatblur team saying hi to all of you guys. Thank you for watching. Of course, we will have a Tomcat giveaway soon. Molter and I will meet up after the match and decide when that's gonna be. So stay tuned. Come in to win that Tomcat. Of course, like in the previous matches when we had the giveaway, and the entire Heatblur team says thank you, and especially thank you to you and Molter and Merlin for the great commentary and the great stream. It couldn't be any better. So thanks to everybody, and stay tuned for the next SATAL round. Yep.
Next week, guys, next round is going to be September 1st, 36 versus the 59th Ravens. It's going to be a good one. Make sure you turn out. Like Iron Mike said, we're going to talk about when we're going to do the next Tomcat giveaway, but regardless of that, the SATAL action's always here. It's fun to watch regardless of giveaways or not. Tell your friends, tell your family. More we can get in here, the more we can hype this up. I think the better we can make this event. I think DCS needs something like this. So that's all I got. Joel, you got anything? You're muted, Joel.
No, I think I'm all set. I'll be on, throughout the weekend, flying, doing my thing. I'm sure you will be as well. That's pretty much it.
Yep. All right, guys. Huge thanks to all of our sponsors, TacView, Lot ATC, Buddy Fox, Sky Knights, and of course Heapler. And big shout outs to 51st and 104th for everything that they've contributed to this event, to making this possible. Big shout outs to 104th and Lock on Greece for their matchup this week. And guys, until next time, I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
See ya.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
one more thing before I break this out. Big donation again from Kevin Rydell, $10. Some decent donations this week, guys.
Oh, nice.
Huge
Thanks,
appreciation for that. I just take that and put it right back into the stream, making this better. Kevin, man, mad props. Thank you. Much appreciated. But I think that's all she wrote, guys. So until next time, have a good one, and I'll see you guys next weekend.
See ya.
Bye-bye.